Good evening, guys. So we've got a rather interesting situation that came to my attention, and I've got Jay Vincent here to lend a hand because it involves some things that he has an area of expertise in. Um, Let me show you an article here real quick. So there's Sheriff Mack was a witness to an incident, and this article is from 2014. He witnessed the Tomball Police Department abuse of a bedridden woman. Um, Nanette Carley was a small business owner that paid her bills and enjoyed her family and had a good life out in the Tomball area until the city of Tomball set their sights on ownership of her property. She has faced tons and tons of harassment and still does. This article is from 2012, I'm sorry, and this is still going on. She's had to move out of Tomball because of the level of harassment, and they took a $750,000 home from her and sold it for $75,000, and she lost all her equity. She lost everything. At one time, she was facing 16 different criminal charges, and I'll put a link to this article in the description so that you guys can go and read the entire thing because I'm just skimming through it. One incident, though, is very interesting. Sheriff Mack, and I know Sheriff Mack, he's a constitutionalist. He witnessed some Tomball officers going after I'm wanting to say Miss Nanette, but that's not it. Miss Carley, and that was in 2012. And they have just harassed her and harassed her and harassed her. But what they have not done, and this is where I took an interest in it, and Jay Vincent has taken an interest in it. They have not accommodated her. Remember? Bedridden woman. This woman has disabilities that she was born with, and they have not accommodated those disabilities in accordance with the American with Disabilities Act. And Jay knows a lot more about that than I do, and so we're going to go over that here real quick and see if we can put a little bit of light on this. How you doing, Jay?
Doing well. Thanks for having me here, David. I appreciate it, and thanks to all you do for the community and to expose things like this. There is a huge problem in America, and I've talked to Ms. Carley on the phone. American culture, politics, and societal programming, they've created disabilities. They don't just observe that there are disabilities; they created disabilities because they have terrorized and traumatized the populace by telling them that they're going to get a fair shake in court. And if there is, I wish I had the lady's name at the tip of my tongue. It's in Dr. Huffer's book. She quoted this woman as saying, if there is a construct that could have been designed to create post-traumatic stress, it is the American courtroom. And what courts have a responsibility to do under the ADA, Title II, is to accommodate and modify their practices so that persons with disabilities can have equal access. And their line that they draw is whether or not the disability is readily apparent. With her, it is readily apparent, but also she's stated in writing and verbally that she has disabilities, and she's requested reasonable modification, and she's been denied it every step of the way without the proper protocol that the ADA requires. Judges and lawyers and bureaucrats really don't know how the ADA works. They know they're supposed to follow it, but they really don't know how it works. So they can run rampant and roughshod over people. And even in their case law, they say that oftentimes persons with disabilities don't get a fair shake in court.
So, wouldn't that be grounds for an appeal? If you were convicted of a crime that would be grounds for an appeal, right? Okay, but
Oh
what
yeah.
if they steal your property, like your home? What recourse would you have then? And why isn't the ADA? There is an organization that oversees that. Why aren't they intervening to help people with disabilities?
The US DOJ is who is tasked with enforcing the ADA. But my experience as a certified ADA advocate is that the US DOJ has no interest in enforcing the ADA. These are people who have a guaranteed job, they gather a paycheck, and they really don't have to do a whole lot. So why would they change anything? Why would they go to work and actually do what they're supposed to do when they have a guaranteed income and they don't have to do anything?
Yeah, why make work for yourself, right?
Right. So it's a situation, and the ADA is an unfunded mandate. So when they passed the ADA, they didn't give money to people to implement modifications, to implement structure changes, um, and other things that could help people, mitigators. So what you have is a law that's enforced without any incentive for people to follow it, except for being sued. And lawyers are not like, I mean, you know what? There are no lawyers that I have found that specialize in ADA, and especially, some of them will do an ADA case, but not for people who can't afford a lawyer. None of them. So it's a situation where people on the low end of the totem pole, the poor, the homeless, the disabled, that they're being discriminated against just as much as before the ADA was passed, in my opinion. Maybe even worse, because now it's a mockery. Now they're supposed to be able to expect equal access, and they're still not getting it. So, one thing I do want to say is that police interactions, including arrests, are subject to the ADA. Tennessee versus Lane is the first case that the Supreme Court heard. And this is a case where a guy he needed access to court, and the court was not giving him access to court. So a lawyer took it and went to the Supreme Court with it. And it was one of the cases that caused them to start beefing up the ADA. And it said, oh, yeah, the state does not see, the ADA strikes immunity. So people in state and local government who deny people ADA benefits, rights, they're without immunity.
Oh, wait, whoa,
So
whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on just a second. Stop right there. So, police officers who have almost absolute qualified immunity, I mean, they can murder you on the street. Oh, I feared for my life, and that's enough to get them qualified immunity. You're telling me that the ADA would strip them of that qualified immunity in most instances?
it does, and the reason is, David, is because and I want to be real clear here that I'm not giving legal advice. I'm giving ADA information under the protection of 42 U.S. Code 12203, which says that I have the right to aid and encourage those who are seeking equal access under the ADA, and that I'm a protected class when I do that, and I can't be interfered with, et cetera, et cetera. You can go
Well,
read the law.
I know that you are not an attorney, and I'm not putting this out as legal advice. It is just some guidelines to help point people in the right direction. It's information, and information is power.
So the 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 reason their immunity is stripped is because the ADA is clearly established law. That's what the case law says. If they have a duty to act on something, it's because it's clearly established law. And the reason their immunity can be stripped is when they don't follow clearly established law. And the ADA is that. And so, one thing that people with disability, here's the thing, people in the auditing community, I believe, have PTSD that may be undiagnosed. I'm not a medical professional, but I know from my experience with dealing with the police that I have been traumatized repeatedly. And now, anytime a police officer comes up to me in uniform or in a position of authority, I have reason to fear, be afraid, have heightened response, anxiety triggers, adrenaline triggers, dissociation, all of these symptoms of PTSD that I've been diagnosed with. And I see this going on with auditors, and they don't know how to use the ADA to their advantage. Here's the thing, a cop doesn't have a duty to respond to the ADA or act under ADA unless there's a readily apparent disability. The way to make a disability readily apparent is to give written notice. If I put out a video a while back of an interaction with me and a police officer at 3 o'clock in the morning. I give this officer a card. I'm willing to give you the note, the copy of this card. You can put it in your description if you wish. And this card says I have PTSD. I have a disability. Actually, it says I have a communication disability, and I can't effectively communicate with you. And I'm asking you to allow me to contact my ADA advocate. Now, I didn't want to contact my ADA advocate at 3 in the morning, but this officer didn't give me the chance after reading that card. So he's without immunity. ADA is clearly established law, and it says right on this card that I have, that I carry with me, ADA is clearly established law. If I'm giving him notice of this and I put it in his face, he's got a problem, and he's going to have a problem. Texas has a tort law, and I'm going to go after it. But if you give a cop a notice that you have a disability, you ask for a reasonable modification, that changes the entire dynamic of a police interaction, because at that point, they have a mandated duty to give you reasonable modification. Now, the exception is if there are exigent circumstances. So if somebody's trying to kill somebody, or somebody's got a knife out or a gun out, or somebody's being threatened, you know, uh, obviously threatened, there are exigent circumstances. But once those exigent circumstances are dealt with, the duty comes right back. They still have a duty to modify. And under Title II, it's reasonable modification. So, I can't communicate with you without some help here, and I need help because of my disability. Also, because of my disability, my adrenaline kicks in. When this cop came up to the bus, my mouth went dry. When he put me in handcuffs, my adrenaline went up higher. I started panicking. Then when he put me in the back of the car, which was hot, I thought he was going to leave me in there for a bit. And I really started panicking and screaming. And so this guy, he breached his duty at every step of the way. And what I really needed, and I asked him for it right up front. I said, "Can I get some water?" And a little bit, and a little bit. You can't put that shit off, dude. Sorry. There are no exigent circumstances in me not giving you my name. And so, yeah, there's a real problem. I'd like to teach people how to use the ADA. The ADA, invisible disabilities like PTSD, TBI, anxiety disorder, they're not readily apparent, so they have to be invoked. And so, one thing I do want to make sure that I say here is, if somebody gives a cop a card that says I have PTSD or a mental health issue that I need to call my ADA advocate, I'm not giving legal advice, but I'm going to tell you this: don't give a cop a card like that without stating on it plainly that you're not asking for mental health assistance or medical assistance, because you don't want to give a cop a reason to involuntarily commit you. Just telling you. And they do that shit
Oh
vindictively
yeah, oh
all the
yeah.
time.
I'm surprised more auditors aren't Baker Act than have been already. But I suffer from PTSD myself, and I think mine manifests itself a little bit differently than yours does, and it's going to be different from person to person. But it is diagnosed, and I have had treatment for it before. And by the way, what they were doing when they put you in the back of that police car is called hotboxing, and make you uncomfortable, soften you up to make you more cooperative. It's a very common thing that they do. Just so you know, it is intentional. They know how hot that back seat gets. But and I've had incidents with where I've interacted with law enforcement where they did something stupid that triggered my PTSD. For the most part, it was early on when I first started auditing. In one instance, I just reverted to half-ass speaking German. It wasn't even good German. It's just half-ass German. And I assure you, I speak pretty fluent German. It's like, gehen Sie geradeaus und durch die Straße links. I'm good with the German, but under stress, your mind short circuits. It doesn't work right. You know what I'm talking about. But if you've never had this happen to you, it's almost like some form of a panic attack. And as the years have gone by, as I've audited more and more, I haven't had so much trouble with it. But if an officer walked up to me and would put his hand on his gun, that would immediately trigger it. But this lady that we're talking about, she gave notice to the court of her disabilities, and they failed to accommodate her at all. Is that your understanding?
If they did not, well, from what she's telling me, they didn't accommodate her at all. And the thing is, you can't run somebody through the system like this if they have a disability and expect it not to come back and bite you in the ass at some point. They did this to me and I didn't even know what was going on back in 2003. So, you were talking about qualified immunity. I really one other thing I want to make sure I get out here before, and you can put this anywhere in the video you wish, but one thing I want to make sure I get out before we cut this off is that qualified immunity is a doctrine that has absolutely no basis in constitutional law. And we're going to put a link in the description here from Professor William Bald, who does an in-depth legal document explaining why qualified immunity is bogus, and it's a conjured right for bureaucrats.
Well, and
So
the Supreme Court is fixing to revisit qualified immunity. They're trying to get it amended or removed or whatever. But there's a case going before the Supreme Court now where they're trying to get them to. I think the wording that I saw was reconsider qualified immunity because it has gotten to be abused. Just that's the shortest version of it I can give you. They lean on it for everything. And unfortunately, remember, these federal judges in these courts are for the most part, former federal prosecutors. They're not independent people with independent opinions and independent experiences. They are the buddies of the cops. So they're going to do everything they can to protect the cops, especially bad cops, because those are the guys they're going to see the most of.
I don't believe we have a justice system anymore.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. It's just us, meaning just them.
Yeah.
The rest of us just get chewed up and spit out. If you don't have any money, they just chew you up and spit you out. It just takes a fortune to fight any kind of case. Just a misdemeanor case here in Texas, you drop $10,000 like it's nothing. Who has that kind of money to just throw away on some BS case? The average person does not have it. And so where do we end up? You want to go hire a lawyer and you want to sue the government or sue a police department, you're going to need $20,000 up front. Who's got that money?
Easy.
Yeah, who's got that money?
Yeah, and when I went into courts and asked to speak to the ADA coordinator, a lot of times they look at you like a frog in a hailstorm. They just sit there and blink. I don't think we have anybody like that here. Well, you're supposed to. Sorry.
My next court date, when I go to court, I'm going to ask. I'm going to check and see. Let's see if they have one or not. I'm betting you're right.
Is the county you're going to court in, do they have 50 or more employees?
Oh, yeah. It's Harris County. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's where that family court judge dances in her courtroom and lets her clerks dance in their offices, and they put it out on TikTok. Oh, that's the one. Gloria Lopez, I think is her name. Yeah, she's really all about justice. She's having a lot of fun in the court, and she makes a big deal about how she was never a judge, she just got elected and she feels so lucky to be a judge, so she puts out these TikToks. And why do you people let an elected official do TikTok on your dime?
I
What's
didn't
up
do
with
it.
that?
I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And if it was up to me, if you had a judge that did stuff like that, we'd remove her from the bench. But unfortunately, you can't. I mean, I've been to court, sitting in the courtroom. And first off, when you go to court, you have to be there by 8 o'clock in the morning, even though the judges and the DAs and all those guys, they don't get there till after 9, sometimes 10. So you get to go up there at 8 a.m., you check in, and then you sit there and you wait. And you can watch the county employees on their county computers shopping on eBay, playing on Facebook, all this kind of stuff. They're doing that on our dime. We're paying them to go up there and sit around and do nothing. And that's just wrong. It's just wrong.
So that's why they don't want cameras in courtrooms.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. I actually got called before a judge on a different case. Got called up before a judge, and when I walked up, I had my, because I carry my camera when I go to court, because you just never know what you're gonna run into or interview somebody or whatever. And so he made me put my camera aside, and then he had me empty out my pockets to make sure I didn't have any secret recording devices. And I'm like, what is this? He said, well, I know what you do. Because apparently you don't. Because I stand on public property in plain view in broad daylight videoing public stuff. I don't come into courtroom where it's against the rules to record. I follow the law. I don't break the law. I follow the law. But they're just,
that'd be a great opportunity to say, what do you have to hide? Why are you so afraid of the light of day?
Oh, this judge actually sat there and said, "Oh, I'm a big supporter of the First Amendment." I said, "I can't tell." That's what I told him. That's what I told him. I can't tell. And it is what it is. So what can we do to help Miss Carly? What can we do to help Miss Carly? What can my subscribers do to help Miss Carly?
Well, I saw her documents, and I'm gonna tell you what, I am too much in a triggered state of my own, reading her documents, to go engage for her, and especially right now. But what can you do? Ask to speak to the ADA coordinator in that county. That's Harris County as well, right?
Is it Harris County or no? She's in Tomball's Montgomery County, but it's all the same stuff. It's all the just them justice system. So
I'd like to write a letter for her. I just can't do it right now. I've just got way too much on my plate.
Well, maybe I can arrange to have a few people call. I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, it's going and asking for an interview with the ADA coordinator, asking them what kind of modifications have they ever been asked for, or are they prepared to provide for someone who has PTSD or a mental health impairment when they come to court. I mean, they're going to sit there and look at you like you just asked them for tomorrow's lotto numbers.
I can do that.
Because they've never done that shit before.
Yeah, I can do that. I can run up there and chat with them and interview. Maybe I can get in to see the judge. Maybe the judge will do an interview. No, he won't, because there's an active, they're actually trying to take more of her properties now. So they're not going to do that. This lady has made her way in life. She has a very severe disability, and she has made her way in life without ever getting on public assistance or anything like that. She's always struggled through, and she built a small business and did well with it. And now the government is trying to take everything from her and force her into a position where she has to lean on the government to live and get support. I just think that's stupid. That's not America. That's not the American way.
Well, like I always say, David, we'll have a justice system when corrupt judges swing by the neck on Courthouse Square. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, politicians in general, not just judges, but politicians in general. You know that we used to execute crooked politicians in this country.
Well, it's kind of how this country was started.
Yeah. And then as the politicians got more and more power, one of the first things they did was outlaw executing crooked politicians. Why? The answer is obvious.
Yeah, go into most state laws, state codes, state statutes, and just do a search on the words, the term. Hang on. Just go into most state codes and do a search on the term quo warranto. It's QUOWARRANTO. And that writ is an old English writ, and it's by what authority? It's where you could go into court and challenge the court's authority. Most states have abolished this writ because they don't want to be challenged.
Of course, they're going to take anything from you that they can to keep you from fighting.
How dare you come in here and ask us where our authority originates from? No, yeah, we're going to strike that one from the books.
All right, Jay. Send me over some links to whatever you want me to put in the description for this video, and I'll add them. And I'm going to see about going and visiting the court and talking to the disabilities coordinator there in that court. And if they don't have one, well, we'll see what happens.
If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm at ADA Vet Advocacy at gmail.com. ADA VET ADVOCACY at gmail.com.
Got it. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you taking time to chat with us, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much, David. You have a great evening, bud.